seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Joey here at the Prosperity Lounge, live in studio 96.3 FM, Knoxville, Tennessee. Got a great show tonight. We're ready to get started. A little behind the scenes again, as always. My guest tonight is Richard Swan, mortgage extraordinaire. Let's see, mortgage extraordinaire and real estate extraordinaire again, but realtor as well. So we're looking forward to having a good episode tonight. Stay tuned when we're all about what we're going to talk about, which is real estate and mortgages, Knox County market.
Live.
We're going live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Prosperity Lounge. I was really busy getting my live stream set up, and Vance, the engineer, sits there and tells me it's time to go, so here we are. So thank you all for joining us. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth meets freedom and growth gets personal. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo. Before we dive into tonight's episode and tonight's topic, I want to talk about something that I experienced this week. It was on Wednesday. My wife and I got an alert in the morning and decided to go down to the Tyson Airport for the Honor Air Flight 37 homecoming. So I guess they go have people there to see them off in the morning and people there in the evening when they come back. And what it is a flight from our area. And they look up Honor Air everywhere, and they have them for veterans. And it's for veterans and their escorts to fly to the nation's capital, get a tour of the day, experience what it's like up there, and then fly back home at night. We got there. We kept following the departure, the arrival, and I kept saying, okay, it's going to arrive at 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock. So we got over there about 7 o'clock, thinking got plenty of room. I'm going to get some great footage, film a bit. We take the shuttle over to the arrival terminal, and we start to go through the doors, and it's really loud. There's a band playing. It was the UT Pride of the Southland band. I come to find out they're playing music, and we walk up the stairs, and it is like shoulder to shoulder people. It was crowded. It was all the way up from the arrival side all the way to the door and wrapped around. And it was fantastic to see everybody there with signs and, a lot of younger children and really young children, like kids 10 and under, Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, just kind of hanging out, with banners and signs saying welcome home and all that stuff. I came decked out in my USA shirt and had with pins in. My dad was a veteran, Vietnam War, Bronze Star recipient, died a few years ago, not from combat wounds, but from stuff left behind from his experience over there. We'll leave it at that. So I had my Bronze Star pin, and I had my Vietnam combat pin, and I had my first Air Cav pin. He was in the first Air Cavalry. So as the band starts playing and they disembark and come down the ramp, it's a giant amount of applause, homecoming, handshakes to everybody. And of course, I made sure to shake as many hands as I could, especially the Vietnam vets. And a couple of them saw my pins and started asking questions. One guy thanked me for my service. I tell him, no, it's not mine, it's my dad's. I'm a little too young for that, but I appreciate it. And what really stood out to me was there was one gentleman who looked at me and he looked around, holding my hand real tight, and tears in his eyes. He goes, I finally got a homecoming. And I remember my dad telling me stories about his homecoming and how it wasn't anything. It's the stories you read on in the books and the things you see on TV. It was just the way he was treated and they were treated. And so to see that connection was very emotional. And if you get the chance to experience something like that, I would really highly recommend you go out there and do that. Check it out at honorair.org. And I think they do it twice a year. You sign up to be volunteer at work. True, the friends and hang out with them and spend the day with them. I think it's a really great opportunity. I'm going to do a longer video on that. So check out the YouTube channel at the Prosperity Lounge on YouTube. I'm going to put up a video about that and talk a little bit more about my experience and show some footage and stuff. So definitely do that. That'd be great. Okay, so let's get into tonight's topic. And well, this is something that impacts everybody on an everyday basis, and it's housing. Now, we had the mayor on a few weeks ago talking about his Operation Heroes Hill, which is going to be building some tiny homes for homeless vets in the area. I think can't remember exactly how many. I have to go back and watch my own episode to hear that. But there's a housing crisis, and there's housing is what it is. So tonight we're going to talk mostly about renting versus buying, mortgages versus cash, and what the real estate market really looks like, especially here in East Tennessee. Joining me is someone who's walked on both sides of the industry. He spent 25 years helping people secure mortgages, and now he works on the real estate side of the table, guiding families to the right homes and right decisions. So please welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, and if you're 96.3, probably a familiar voice, Richard Swan.
Thank you, Joey. It's wonderful to be here, and I also want to thank you for your service. That's a great thing.
Well, I appreciate that. And my service, Richard, obviously, was just being a child of a veteran.
Well,
and dealing with, that's a tough one. You think about it, PTSD stuff.
Families are very
Yeah.
much a part of that.
Yeah, well, welcome home regardless of whatever I can. I appreciate that.
I've moved all over the country probably.
Yeah, for sure. One of the reasons why I definitely wanted to talk to you, and not because that Vance, the engineer, thinks very highly of you.
Well, normally I challenge his credibility, but today he is spot on.
I was going to say low bar. You basically, people make every kind of financial decision when it comes to homes.
Right.
You probably, the other side of the table, with people coming with a quick and easy situation, and the ones that you a little bit harder, you're going to say, not yet.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a big one to start off with. Your biggest misconception when it comes to people buying a home?
My biggest misconception, I guess the main thing that I dealt with, and that is pretty much prevalent, nobody ever has cash. So nobody ever has an abundance of cash that they just want to put everything into the home. So you have to work within them and find programs that are low down payment, find programs that are 100% financing, and those are available out there. Certainly the VA loan is the best loan, period, for veterans. Yeah. Even up into the jumbo class loans, because VA will do 100% financing up to $1 million.
Wow.
And a lot of veterans don't think about that, or they only think about their VA loan for their first time purchase, but it's the best loan for them almost always. Okay. So that's number one. You have other first-time buyers loans like THDA and rural housing that are will pretty much do 100% financing for you. THDA first and the second that they deal with is forgivable after 2 years. And there's no repayment on the second, but they keep a second in case you decide to sell the house. They're not going to let you profit from them putting a bunch of money down for you. So, but they're a great program. And then rural housing through the Department of Agriculture is a great program in areas that are less developed. So you're not going to get a rural housing loan in deep West Knox County, south of the interstate, but you might Hardin Valley
Okay.
and Northwest Cards.
And so that's where things, local issues about zoning take over. What
Right.
type of properties are zoned at, and that's why we have a big fight, especially in Knox County, about advanced Knox and zoning plans and rural. So, 3 per acre, 6 per acre kind of building, what things are changing. That doesn't necessarily mean, it has greater implication than just we're going to put 6 homes on this property instead of 7 or 8, where we're going for it. It's also what type of loans people can get for that property now as the zoning changes. It changes from rural agriculture to rural, or changes to high density, medium density. That's going to change what
Right.
people can
And
qualify
and
for.
those are all city ordinances and
Yeah,
whatever the zoning overlays are for those. And then you see some odd zoning, like recently, Loudoun County came out and put a hiatus on planned unit development.
I saw that.
So they go on new neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Well, where are people in their county going to live? Because people in their county are having kids, they're growing, more industry is moving to that area. So housing becomes a part of that question, and that's something they will have to address at some point.
Yeah, so we're venturing down the political road here a little bit with who you elect and what the policies are, but you have things that could be considered uncontrolled growth in some areas, and things that are just like you said, Loudoun County, where it's no growth at all. And maybe they'll go back to the drawing board and say, okay, if now we're going to have growth, we're going to have more of a strategic plan growth than just this unmitigated approval of everything kind of growth. Now, from a citizen's perspective, sometimes controlled growth looks better because we like the openness of what we're seeing, and we like the worlds of the communities we're in. But I would imagine from a realtor's perspective, you would like more growth, so there's more houses to sell potentially.
Well, I live in the community,
I don't want to put you on the
so
spot.
so I want what's best for the
Sure.
community, and different people have different views of that.
Mhm.
Now, currently, we're dealing with the fact that they have just closed another traffic bridge. So we literally only have one bridge coming out of Knoxville to South Knoxville,
Yeah.
and that's the Henley Street Bridge,
Right.
because they closed the area that they were going to expand the South Knoxville Bridge, but they just ended it.
Mm.
So and now we're spending $80 million on another pedestrian bridge to link UT campus with Vestal. But we currently only have one bridge going out of the city into South Knoxville. And so
Yeah.
I'm sure South Knoxville residents are going to look seriously at how they live and how they grow out there.
Yeah. Before that happened, I would always take either Gate Street Bridge or High Street Bridge here. Now I'm taking a lot of 129 John Sevier to get here. So there's other ways to go, but it's way more like it is way out of
Yeah.
It's not as convenient. So before we get really deep into housing and mortgage, I want to go back and kind of reacclimate the audience to you. Talk a little bit more about your history, your story. You had started in radio, doing
I,
marketing as
I
well.
did start in radio while I was in college. I worked as a disc jockey, and I love being a disc jockey because you get a lot of people that call into you, and the calls are all over the place as to why they're calling. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with people. Then I started doing sales, and have basically stayed in sales pretty much my whole life. So even as a mortgage lender, I was doing sales. I had to go out and get my own leads. I wasn't sitting in a bank just waiting for somebody to come in. I had to go out and make relationships with realtors, make relationships with uh, HR people that
Mhm.
have people coming into the area and working with them to help to get those people into a home and help them finance their home. And financing is a huge part of the equation. And always shop and make sure you're getting the best answers, or you're getting someone that is actually talking to you. You are their customer, so they should give you their full time. They should give you their full attention, and you should always be able to reach them. And I certainly was with my customers, and I had a bunch of customers that were repeat customers that came back to me every time they switched houses. So that is always a reaffirmation of you're doing a good job, is
Mhm.
if your customers will follow you and they continue to call you when they have a question.
So when you were in leadership roles before getting into mortgages and in marketing, I love talking about marketing and leadership. Marketing is sort of in my wheelhouse when I coach my clients. And then leadership, we have a ton of leadership episodes and styles. So I want to touch base a little bit on both of those real
Okay.
quick. So your leadership style, we'll start there. How would you define your how would you define your leadership style?
You have to put your ego aside.
Mm,
You, I worked basically for a telemarketing firm in Knoxville, and we had about 250 reps. And I can't do the number of hours on the phone that they can do. I can't meet my goals for the company of what I have to produce every week by getting on the phone myself. So
mm,
therefore I've got to have people working with me. And that's the way I looked at it. They were working with me. They were not my employees. And you have to put your ego aside, but you also have to hold them accountable to the standards that you need. But I was doing that for 10 years, and I could count on one hand the number of people that I physically had to fire because I found other ways to talk to them. I found
mm.
other ways to get them to do what we needed them to do. Only in gross situations, negligence or rudeness did I need to fire somebody, and those were rare.
Yeah,
And usually were, you know, I would talk to them one time and just say, we don't do that. Now, if it occurred a second time, then that they had been told. So,
yeah. There's various philosophies as far as leadership. And I think I know what you're playing at, where you lie at this moment. You can tell me. There's people who feel leading from behind, and then people who lead in the front, and then people kind of lead alongside. There's various things. I guess situations each one of them work. I prefer the kind of front side, a little bit of both, where people can. I'm walking shoulder to shoulder with you, but I'm also doing the things that I need you to do, and you see me doing them.
yeah. And I enjoyed leading by doing.
Yeah,
And I enjoyed being on the phones. I enjoyed talking to people. So whenever a rep said, I just can't sell this, this is hard, I would just ask them to hand me their handset. And usually it was one, maybe two calls, and I had a sale for them.
yeah,
And I'd get off the phone and they'd like, how did you do that? And I said, well, I thought I did it pretty well. What do you think? But so I was a little sarcastic at times and that carried through, but they understood that and they thought it was funny at times as well. So, but you have to be willing to walk in their shoes. You
yeah,
have to be willing to show that you are not above what they do.
absolutely. I do small business coaching and just the marketing and branding side of things and a whole bunch of stuff over there. And I cut my teeth at financial coaching, Dave Ramsey kind of stuff. And we had our own situation where we were in a lot of debt, got out, help others, all that. But one of the things that I did getting out was a lot of side hustles. So I did Uber and food deliveries, grocery shopping, mystery shopping, a whole bunch of stuff. I still do some of that today. So when new things pop up, I'm still like, hey, I'm gonna go see what Amazon's about this week because it's been a while since I've had an Amazon run. So I'm gonna go check to see if there's anything new. Because those are things that I suggest to my clients to do. And I don't want to suggest to you, hey, Richard, best way to get out of debt is go do ABC. And I never done it. Because if you have an issue, I want to be able to walk you through it. I also want you to succeed as fast as possible by cutting through all the mumbo jumbo learning experience because I've done it. I can teach you from 0 to 60 right now, and then you're on your path. So that's you said kind of that leading by example of doing it. I'm right there with you.
Well, and a lot of people, when they get to the point where they can't get out of the debt they're in, they look at bankruptcy.
Oh yeah,
Well, when you go to an attorney and talking about a bankruptcy, the attorney wants to solve that for you, and he's going to recommend you put everything in the bankruptcy and just do it. But part of rebuilding your credit is establishing credit after a bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best ways to do that is if you have a car that you're planning to keep and you're planning to manage those payments, then have them pull that car out of the bankruptcy, reaffirm that debt with the lender, tell
Mm-hmm.
the lender you're going to keep making that debt. Because a lot of times the attorney will just say, well, you can just keep paying that. It's not going to be, well, once you file bankruptcy, if they include all of your debt, then none of your good payment history going forward can be reported to anybody.
Interesting.
So you have to reaffirm it out of the bankruptcy in order for them to show your new payments going forward, and they will report that immediately. So they'll close everything that was in the bankruptcy, but they'll report your new payments on your card. They'll keep reporting that
Mm-hmm.
immediately, and that will help you rebuild your credit. So
Interesting. One of the things we talked briefly about with bankruptcy when we had our, everybody knows by now I do a pre-show chat with everybody. So not just going in here off the cuff, which sounds like sometimes, but give me too much credit. But we talked a little bit about bankruptcy, and I had mentioned a client. I thought about it a little bit more, but it was a client that I had that came to me, and they were in year 6 of 7 of their bankruptcy. I had said to you that they were still making payments. They weren't. They were just 6 or 7 years past their bankruptcy. So getting ready to have it kind of fall off their credit and everything else. But the reason they came to me is they were back at $70,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
And the problem is for a lot of people nowadays with bankruptcies and debt consolidation and everything is it's I don't want to hesitate to use the word quick fix, but it's a fix that solves a symptom and not the problem. And that's where programs like Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace come in, working with a financial coach, working with somebody who's an accountability partner, getting on a plan, changing your goals, getting on a budget, living intentionally. We say here on the show, the budget is the foundation upon which your financial house is built. Strong budget, you can put whatever you want on top of it. Weak budget, it's like quicksand. It's going to collapse your finances. And so having things like that in place, when you're coming out of a situation where it's very traumatic, it's very traumatic to yourself, it's traumatic to your credit history, it's traumatic all around, and not having a plan in place to change what you've done is
right.
it's imperative.
And in that situation, they had most likely done a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which involves repayment of certain of your creditors.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really not recommend that to most people. I would say if you're going to file bankruptcy, go ahead and take the full hit, do the Chapter 7. That's going to take all of that debt off of you. It's going to get you out from under that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't bankrupt everything. Like you can't bankrupt student loans, and you can't bankrupt other things. But take the advantage of the bankruptcy laws and get out of it as much as you can. If you go into repayment, it's still an anchor around your neck
Mm-hmm.
that you may not be able to really get out of. So
Yeah.
rather than prolong it, because they were in it for 6 years, with a Chapter 7, they would have been done and their credit would have been improved probably 2 to 3 years later, which really allows them to recover from life. It allows them to move on, and it allows them to make those changes going forward.
Absolutely.
And an underwriter for a mortgage or any kind of loan is going to look at how you've paid things after the bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're going to look at, and they're going to give you credit for how you've paid that. Now, the one thing I would say is going to mess you up with any underwriter is not paying child support. And underwriters hate that.
Okay.
And most of the underwriters that I've ever dealt with were female. So if you weren't paying child support, then they really
Double
didn't
dip.
want to do a loan for you.
Gotcha.
So
Interesting. Didn't think of that.
because they look at how that you're taking care of your kids.
Yeah. And another I would say misconception with bankruptcy as well is there's notion that, like you said, pulling things out, and by the time you get down to it, you might go, man, I have $100,000 that I want to get out of the bankruptcy. Okay, let me pull the car out. I want 45 on the car, but I'm going to pull the car out. So now I'm down to $55,000 in bankruptcy. Some of that is student loans. That's not, I can't do that. We'll pull that out. And now you're down to like maybe 20 or 30,000. You go, is it worth the 7 year headache and the credit hit and all that stuff for 20 when we might just be able to budget and work our way out of it ourselves? So there's conversations need to happen before agreeing and saying yes. Have the conversation with the bankruptcy attorney, have a conversation with the financial professional, and see if there's a plan B. I think that's probably a good takeaway.
Yeah, and that's the way to look at it.
Sweet. So during your time in London, what's one client story that really sticks with you? Maybe someone turned things around because of their mortgage choice, or something that really is like your favorite story
There
to
was
tell.
a woman who had come to me, and she had had a lot of financial problems in the past. She had a good job, she was working consistently, but she had had a lot of problems in the past, and her credit was not good. And she wanted to know how to rebuild that. She wanted to know how to be in a place to where she could buy a house.
Okay.
And I worked with her probably for about 2 years, and worked with her to how to pay off some of the debt that she had, how to get rid of some of the debt that she had. I can't remember if she filed bankruptcy or not, but I worked with her as to how to rebuild her credit. And the whole thing, and I know that you're familiar with this and talking with Dave, the whole thing is to manage your credit cards and don't let them become an anchor that just pulls you under.
Mhm.
You've got to manage your spending. You've got to manage how you do those. You've got to try to get lower interest rates on your credit cards to get out from that. Because some of them, if you're paying 20%, then
Yeah.
it's going to take you a long time to pay off
Right.
the balance because you're paying the interest all the time. So work with people that have the knowledge. Work with people that care about you and that listen to you, not that just talk to you over the phone and say, well, you just need to pay your credit cards off and then come back and talk to me. That's not an answer.
Yeah.
Work on how to pay those. Use family if you can. If your family has any help, if they can assist you on paying some of the things that you need help paying, then look at all avenues. But bankruptcy is one of those avenues.
Mhm.
But talk with somebody from a credit side, not just your attorney, because your attorney is just going to put everything in the bankruptcy and tell you that the court will handle all that. Well, the court doesn't care about you rebuilding your credit. And the court isn't going to help you rebuild your credit. So talk to somebody that understands that and will put you in a better position moving forward.
There's an old adage I've been saying a lot recently. It's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the team. And in this situation, if you want your bankruptcy to happen fast, go it alone with your bankruptcy attorney, basically. If you want to make it further down the line, make some changes in your life, your lifestyle, and your plan, your goals, and change your direction with how you deal with your finances, get a team. And that team's going to be, it's going to include your bankruptcy attorney, but it's also, like you said, going to include professionals on the other side to kind of talk you through, hey, this is plan B, plan C, plan D. And if you do happen to go down the bankruptcy route, this is what we're going to do when you get out.
Yeah.
This is how we're
And
going to
Joey, you said it, but make changes. Go through the bank, but make changes or you'll end up there again.
right there. Yeah. So you talked about, well, let me see, we haven't talked about it yet, but one of the biggest things that people talk about is the down payment when it comes to the house. 20% down, you don't pay PMI, get a 15-year, talking Dave Ramsey language here. 20-year down, 15, whatever, 15-year, no PMI, go, boom, done. Your thoughts on that?
People are currently paying rent. If you're living at home and you're not having to pay rent, then stay there as long as you can. But if you're paying rent, then that's an expense, and you're probably paying somebody else's mortgage with your rent payment. So you need to look at how can I afford a house? How can I get into a house where it's about what I'm paying in rent? And maybe it's a little more, but I'm get another bedroom, I get a garage, which helps me protect my car longer and help that investment.
Mm-hmm.
So in many cases, I was getting people into houses that was not making their rent a whole lot more than it had been before. It was a mortgage payment now, but it was basically equivalent to what they were paying in rent. They got away from neighbors next to them. They got into a house. They got more security, and they began to build equity with that house. I don't remember a year where Knoxville lost a lot of equity, even during the meltdown in '08. You had upscale neighborhoods took a hit, but most neighborhoods stayed or close to what they people had just bought them for. Now, if people had bought them 6 months before the crash, then they may have lost a little equity for a year or so, but they gained it back quickly. So that's what a house is going to help you do. You've got to have housing for your entire life. The way to look at it is, how do I get the best housing possible to where I'm building equity to eventually I will own that house. And generally, it's going ahead and biting the bullet if you're in a stable job, if you're in an area where you know you're going to stay, then go ahead and bite the bullet and buy a house. Because Tennessee is fairly good on that. Tennessee doesn't have a lot of penalties when you sell the house. And usually, if you sell the house, you don't have to pay capital gains if you're rolling it over to buy a new house. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of programs out there that will help you with down payment assistance. They will help you with 100% financing. And if you have good credit, and this is something that everybody needs to know how to build their credit, maintain their credit, and we can talk about that more tonight or in another show. Um, if you maintain good credit, then the mortgage insurance is going to be less. So
Hmm.
there are options,
Like
and
similar to car insurance and things. Sometimes they're in your credit history, and
yes,
once you get bad credit, the insurance rates are higher.
absolutely.
So I didn't know that about mortgage insurance.
If you've got good credit and they don't think you're going to default on this loan because you've paid your other bills on time, so they're going to give you mortgage insurance at a reduced.
Okay.
And I'm talking with even 5% down, uh, 10% down, you get another break. So you don't have to have 20% down to start building equity in the house. And the best way to do that is to talk to someone that has a lot of loan programs available. Talk to someone that has every option available. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of credit unions will only talk to you about a 15-year loan because that's all they're really interested in having on their books. They can do a 30-year loan, but they'd rather talk to you into a 15-year loan. And most of my clients couldn't afford the larger payment of a 15-year loan.
Hmm.
So do the 30-year, and you can make additional payments to it as you have additional money, as you get a bonus, as you get a tax refund from the IRS. Then you can put that additional money to the principal, and you can shorten how long you're going to have to make those payments. And anything
Makes
you
sense.
pay to the principal is reducing the interest that you're paying
Hmm.
at that point. So it's helping you immediately, plus it's helping you long term by shortening the life of the loan.
So again, this is where somebody who is utilizing a team of a financial advisor, financial coach, accountability budget person, whatever, maybe two aspects of it, where you can sit and go, okay, what is my mortgage payment? If I make an extra payment, how much do I have to make that extra payment? It could be half a payment, a full payment, whatever. You said bonuses come in and stuff. But it's also looking at things in the terms of, do I make that extra payment to my mortgage, or am I paying down my car? Am I paying off a credit card because of the interest rates right now? Interest rates currently are somewhere in the sixes. I'll just whatever. A few years ago, they were in the twos and twos. So people who bought houses that are in the twos aren't necessarily rushing out one to sell them right now and get a 6% or 7% mortgage. They're also not interested really in paying it off because they can put that money in the market and make 10%, and the market interest is 2, and they have 8% difference on their money.
Absolutely, and I agree with both of those. And I recently I've dealt with a lot of retirees moving to this area to retire in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them wanted to do just a $50,000 loan. I'm like, at 3% interest, talk to your financial advisor because he's going to tell you that you don't want to do just a $50,000 home loan. You want to put whatever you have to put down to manage that payment, but you want to manage that payment and invest the rest, and it's going to help you more long term. Maybe it's going to end up by the time that you're 80 or 90 and need it more, it has built a bigger nest egg for you to have more to live on at that point
Yeah,
when you need it, when you're in a nursing home or
exactly.
whatever.
And it all goes back to the thing we talked about earlier about being intentional and having a plan, because putting it into an investment account and you build up $100,000 and you need it and you got 50,000 on your house, you can take that money out and pay off the house. You can take that money and use it for whatever you want to use it for, but it's not like, oh, it's here, I'm going to go buy a Maserati, and then I still have a house payment and this and that and everything else. And then you're like, oh, what am I going to do with the car?
Yeah.
It's being intentional with it. And if you have that intentionality, that's why rich people are rich, man. They have so many separate accounts. They use HSA accounts, savings accounts, certain types of life insurance, savings accounts. They know what to do.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here,
That's
hand
where,
over
that's
fist.
where I agree with Dave Ramsey. You don't need to drive a Maserati. It's going to depreciate faster probably
Sure.
than any other car you can drive. And if you get it dinged at the grocery store, then it's going to reduce its value more than any other car. So,
Yeah.
drive a car for a necessity, buy a house for a necessity because you have to have shelter, you have to have mobility, but don't buy into the lifestyle.
Yeah. There's a comment in the chat here that actually says for the younger generation, it seems buyers are stuck. It's kind of what we just were talking about. The average age of first-time buyers has increased to the highest in history, being in the upper 30s. I mean, again, it's people who are currently in a home at 2% not wanting to trade that 2 for a 6.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'll pay a 6 and refinance later when it goes down to 4. It'll be fine with me. But it's people that are, or people with no mortgage payments that are at 0%. Essentially, they have no loan.
Right.
That are willing to make that trade, especially where their value of their home at 2% or 0%. If they were to sell it, they can't get something comparable for the
Right.
price range.
Right. Because their house probably 5 years ago was worth 280,000. Now it's close to probably 500,000.
Mhm.
And they can't finance a $500,000 house necessarily, but they're planning to roll the equity. But sometimes that's not the best opportunity for you. Sometimes you're better you can always abandon the house. And I say abandon, but I abandon it as your primary residence and move into a new house. And you can still, there are loans that you can do that will allow you to, if you have a rental contract on that, they'll allow you to use that to offset that loan immediately.
Mhm.
So there are ways, and if you talk to the lender that has all the products, that has the most products out there, and talk to several lenders if you need to. If you're not getting the answers, if you're not talking to somebody that you think is listening to you and explaining things to you, then get up and walk.
Yeah, because back in 2008, that crisis was fueled by the housing bubble from people getting into. I won't get into the whole spiel because I'm not sure if I understand it completely as well, but it sounded like people got into loans were being approved for people that necessarily wouldn't have loans approved for them, and so ARMs, balloon payments, small payments up front, and then those big payments come due, they can't pay it, and then there's a foreclosure, and there's a gluttony of foreclosure homes on the market. Prices drop down, and then investors swoop in and buy underappreciated assets of the homes, and then the bank kind of fixed itself. It left a lot of people without home ownership and things like that. And it seems like not that that's where we're going today, but if you're talking about homes where they were maybe 200,000 a few years ago, now they're 500,000, and people start pulling that equity out to live off of, and then when those equity payments come due and they can't pay those, then there's a whole new type of foreclosure that's happening. and not from mortgage foreclosure, it's not home equity or credit foreclosure that's going to happen. That's going to potentially leave people without a house.
For the record, we didn't have a lot of that type of lending going on in this area.
Oh, I'm from California. That's where they had a
And
lot of it there.
it was what we called the sand states.
Yeah.
So Florida, Arizona, California, a lot of those where they were doing stated income. And, by stated income, I'm not talking about, what a restaurant owner made. I'm talking about what a waiter or a waitress made. And they were stating their income at $200,000
Yeah.
and moving into a house on an interest-only payment. So they weren't paying anything to the principal. And it was usually an ARM. So it was a reduced rate for a short period of time. And then when all of those started hitting and they started adjusting, the adjustment sometimes could be 6% the first adjustment.
Wow.
So that's where they were, and then they were having to start paying on the principal. So when all of those kicked in, it just created a thing and it was basically countrywide.
Yeah.
Countrywide was selling everything at A paper when it really wasn't A paper. It was B and C paper, but they were selling it as A paper. So the people that got those loans didn't know what they had. A lot of them were condos, so that's why you've seen a lot of guidelines on condos tightened to where they now want to look at what the association has reserved. They want to look at what the association's budget is, and they want to look at what the association is set aside for a rainy day. Because lenders lost a lot on condos because what they found is that there was deferred maintenance. There were roofs that should have been replaced 5 years ago that hadn't been because the association wasn't collecting enough in dues.
Wow.
So they were just patching everything, but they weren't fixing the problem really. So you dealt with a lot of issues. Mostly they were created by the lending industry, but specific players within that realm. Most of the lenders were doing business correctly and were doing things the right way.
That's a great movie, Big Short. That's about that, yeah. You mentioned ARM, it's adjustable rate mortgage, but it really means sometimes you have these payments, it really is an arm and a leg you're paying.
Most people in East Tennessee don't want to do an adjustable rate. So I've never had people really coming to me asking about adjustable rates. The people that did were your financial people like yourself that knew how to watch the market. They knew how to look at when it was going to adjust, but they're also risky. The thing in any adjustable rate is you have to look at, am I going to be stable? Am I going to be able to qualify to get a new loan if that will adjust and I need to refinance? So that's where people really got into a crunch. They couldn't afford the new payment. They didn't qualify to refinance, and they couldn't keep up with the payment once it adjusted. So
yeah, there was a good conversation going on in the chat about this, and the comment was this is from Ryan and Jessica, who are related to there as well. And they don't want people to them and tell them they don't want the responsibility of maintaining a home, mainly because they're so expensive. They think they can't afford them. They're afraid. And then the other comment here is they have part of that is there's so many investors that are buying homes for the sole purpose of renting them out, and they're coming from out of state and they're just coming in and outbidding the locals and then just bringing them back to the locals. And that's going to be this sort of runaround, this circle that we're getting into. You talk about Loudoun County shutting stuff down. It's crazy.
The part about people buying out the first-time market area, that is occurring. You've got investors that are buying those low-end houses, they're rehabbing them, and they're putting them on as a rental. The fact of you don't want to deal with the repairs or you don't want to do the expense of all that, trust me, you are paying for your landlord to make those repairs in what you're paying in rent.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody about a house, get a new house if you need to. house that's in a condominium association where they'll take care of a lot of the exterior maintenance. So talk to a financial person, talk to a lender about how to get around that or what your fears are there, because in almost all cases, you're going to benefit from owning property and owning that house.
That was interesting. An article came out today that I found across, and it's very common. It was from analysis from Adam. I think it's called Adam. It's a real estate data company. And they said that profit margin on flipping a home is at a 17-year low with high prices. And we talked about it. Typically, from April to June, the typical home flipped by an investor resulted in a 25.1% return on investment before expenses, the lowest profit margin on transactions since 2008.
If you're having to pay a lot for the house in the front market,
Right.
then you don't have room to rehab it. You don't have room to make the necessary repairs, and you got to worry about what you're going to net if you try to sell it. If you're flipping it for rental income, then you're playing the long game,
Mm-hmm.
and you can sell it when the market's high in the future.
I think we've all watched Flipper Flop and those house flipping shows. One of the things that frustrates me on those shows, and my wife, she looks at me when I start arguing at the end. It's like they'll show what the person made on it, and they'll say they bought the house for $500,000, they put $200,000 into it, they sold it for $750,000, they made $250,000. It's like, no, they made 50 because they spent $200,000 on repairs, $250,000. So the return on investment is you bought it for $7, sold it for $750. Is that's
And for some of those guys, it is paying them to do their normal professional work. So they're painters, they're carpenters, whatever. So they're getting their value back out of putting that work into it, but they're getting their value back in being employed for 3 months, fixing up that house, and that house sells for what they would have gotten paid from other people to do that. So it's not all as green as people see it, and they don't tell you a lot of the pitfalls.
Yeah, and quite honestly, too, when we're looking at homes in the area, we're still in the market for one. We'll look at the Zillow pricing and see when did it sell last, and then we'll see the jump. We'll see a house that sold in 2020 for $200,000, and it sold again in 2022 for $375, and now it's on the market for $5 something. Or like, okay, they fixed it up a little bit. I can see the pictures, and that was somebody who bought it for the sole purpose of buying it to flip. We swipe on to the next one. We look for it.
And some of those have increased value because work was done to them. Some of them they just raised the price.
Yeah, keep up with the market.
FHA has a rule that you cannot do a house that's been flipped within less than, it's got to be like 6 months plus a day. Otherwise, you've got to go on what it last sold for, and you've got to really prove that there were reasons why that value increased.
Absolutely. So before we get on to the next part, I want to talk about the Knoxville real estate market. But before we get into that, I just want to tell everybody that you're having a great time here. You're listening, and stuff we're talking about is resonating with you. If you realize the housing plan, maybe you need stuff at once, don't go at it alone. You can head over to theprosperitylounge.com. You'll find free tools like our 8-step guide to stop living paycheck to paycheck, our student loan survival guide, and our prosperity final budgeting tool. And stay tuned because we got our brand new app about to hit the market soon. You have all the connections you need. We're talking about small business, personal finance, community leadership, all the above. Check out where we're at. Got our our flexible budgeting tool that's there. And remember, you tune in every week live, 6 o'clock at night, Eastern time on YouTube at the Prosperity Lounge. You can check it out on Facebook. We have our Instagram page. Sign up for the free community space. Everything's there. I'd love to hear your questions, your wins. Ask some questions for our guests coming up. Stay tuned so you don't miss an upcoming episode. All right, Richard. Talk about the Knoxville real estate market now. Because I've been here 3.5 years. I don't have a house.
You don't have a house?
No.
We need to talk,
want to know
but then
something
we'll talk
funny?
off there.
You want to know something funny? I'll tell everybody right now. As I fix my shirt, I live in a hotel
Do you really?
since we moved here.
All right.
We came here, short term. We're going to live in a hotel where we found a place, and we came here a little later than we like. It was summer of 22, and we visited the area in 2015, and we're like, we're going to buy something really nice in 2015, really nice in 2016, so on and so forth. Never got here in 2022. Whole long story. We get here, and we're going to go around and try to find some rentals. And at that point, everybody had already, all their friends that we told, hey, we're moving to Tennessee, already moved in front of us, left us in the dust. Got everything good. And we go around, and they have a wait list. And the wait list is, hey, it's about $500 a person on the wait list. And we had a cat, $100 for the cat. So every place that we went to was going to cost us about $1,100 to put us on the wait list,
Yeah.
with no guarantee of getting a place, and potentially getting one maybe December of that year, so 6 months out.
Yeah.
So we looked at each other and said, if we go to 10 places and put our name, we're going to spend almost $6,000 on waitlist fees with no guarantee. If we stay at the hotel, after 90 days or 99 days, we become a resident. They refund our hotel tax, they refund our sales tax, which they did. And we get free breakfast, we get free dinner at night, we get a free pool, we get a free gym, free internet, free everything, free housekeeping. And the best part about it, Richard, points.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
not paid for a hotel room in 3.5 years. I've traveled everywhere on points.
That's good. And that's good. And I would guess that you are probably a Schedule C earner, that you're self-employed.
I am self-employed, yes.
Yes. So an underwriter would not have approved you probably without 2 years tax returns once you had moved here.
Yeah.
Because they would have viewed that your clientele would not move to this new location.
Okay.
And so that you had some things working against you that you're now past that. You probably should start to talk to somebody about whether or not it's time to get into a
I think
house.
it's time. Just got to get. I was about to say I got to get the 20%.
Yeah.
I said maybe I don't have to.
And that's one of the strengths that I have over other realtors. If somebody comes and talks to me, I immediately can talk the financing game with them with understanding and knowledge of what's actually going to occur.
Yeah. No, I probably am pigeonholed myself because we're in Farragut, and we have to stay in a certain part of Farragut for community reasons. And God, am I going to spill it here on the radio? Potentially running for office one day in Farragut. I need to be in a certain part of Farragut in order to. We'll leave it at that. So I'm kind of, when we got here, we looked at Hardin Valley, we looked at other places. When we originally came, the first time we checked out Hardin Valley was farm. I'm one of those people that can say, I remember when Hardin Valley was farmland, because it was when we drove around. And I remember Farragut had hanging streetlights. I remember that. It was 10 years ago. But
farmland is in Loudoun County.
Yeah, that's right. So we love Farragut. We love that part of the area. It's obviously the most expensive probably area outside of Sequoia Hills and some of those elite enclaves in the area, lakefront communities and stuff.
I've lived here all my life. My mother grew up in Sequoia Hills. I would not pay the city and county taxes to live there.
That's right. So we get about Farragut. We don't have property tax because the county has to get some of it, but there's no city tax. So
yeah.
Don't know about that. But those areas are good, right? Actually, people started really find some groundwork with development and everything else. Same with Powell.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on. From a realtor perspective, and I'll just put on your local hat. What is driving that growth? Is it just industry or just people moving?
You've still got people moving into this area because they're tired of the tax base in other areas, and I include in that the Chicago area, New York area, California area. They're tired of the tax bases. They're tired of lack of security, and they're tired of the corruption. And Knoxville is pretty much free of that. Tennessee has a balanced budget. We have no state income tax, and it's just a beautiful area. There's 7 major lakes right here, all around Knoxville, that offer skiing, offer fishing, offer sailing to a limited degree. So it's just a very nice area. I've lived here my entire life. My wife is from Atlanta. She's asked me occasionally if I would consider moving. And like, where are you gonna give me everything that we've got here, including symphony? We've got plays through UT. We've got culture. Where are you gonna give me that moving somewhere else?
You're looking off. Sorry.
She's been here longer now than she's been any other place. So
Yeah.
we've worn her down.
So for families that are moving here, what are some things you suggest they look for beyond just price and square footage?
Well, like you and I talked just a minute ago about your situation, you're self-employed, so you're not going to convince an underwriter that you can come here and make the same thing that you were making there. Those clients probably won't transfer with you. They might. I don't know what the licensing requirements are with financial planning and advising, if you can do that from state to state, or if you have to be licensed in every state where you have a customer.
There's certain numbers for each state. I think there's
But
5 or so before you have to register that state. Yeah.
but that's going to be a underwriting issue, underwriting problem for you that you need time on the ground to. For other people that are maybe coming here to retire, their retirement is already set up. We're going to use their retirement income to qualify them for a loan. They're probably going to bring cash from a higher market from the sale of their house. And they'll have equity that they can use to finance a home here or to help pay for a home here. So that's a positive. That doesn't affect a lot of the people that are moving to this area. And we've got some of what we call the halfbacks. They lived in New York, they lived in Chicago, they moved to Florida. They're tired of running from hurricanes because Florida's had quite a few hurricanes lately. They're tired of running from the heat. So they want to move half back. They don't want to go back to the snow. They don't want to go back to the northern political areas that they were in. So they come back to Tennessee, North Alabama.
Haven't heard that before. I've heard snowbirds before. They go south for the winter, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking ahead, what is your outlook on the East Tennessee real estate market over the next 3 to 5 years?
It's going to grow. We have businesses here. We have a lot of industries coming in because of the tax climate here, because of the benefits to employers, benefits to their employees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to continue to grow. We're going to need to keep finding housing. If you noticed, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the city of Knoxville has recently looked at their zoning, and they're looking at taking a lot of individual lots and allowing homeowners to subdivide them so that they have more property to build on within the city. And they want housing, but they're looking at denser housing, but not apartments. They want owner occupied housing.
Okay.
So the second
crazy.
part of that is they've got to become more friendly to builders, because builders don't currently like working with the inspectors in the city, and they find it hard to schedule them to come out and look at something. And at any time that you're not working with your builders, you're not attracting them.
Absolutely. Another thing too that I touch on real quick, just about ready to wrap up, is during that market boom 2020 when people were escaping, we were in a bunch of Facebook groups about people leaving California and coming to Tennessee. And even when we got here, there were so many people who bought homes sight unseen, with a realtor doing a video walkthrough, or just not even that, just buying it just to come here and then getting here, realizing it wasn't everything they had hoped. And so people were trying to sell it back and trying to get the money back to go higher to go back. But it's one of those things, if you're gonna buy something that large of a purchase, doing your due diligence, right? Doing the walkthrough, being here, maybe taking a trip out and experiencing the area and see if it's like house looks great on paper, but is it the neighborhood you want to be in? Is it close to the shops you want to be at? That's something.
I've got a couple that I'm working with now that are in Washington State, and I've told them that when they get to that point, they've got to come down here and look at houses.
Yeah.
Because I'm not willing to take on that. Well, that didn't show up in the video. Well, maybe I didn't cover one corner that
Right.
that I couldn't get to or something. So,
For sure.
so that's a liability on the real estate side that I'm not willing to take.
Well, we had a great conversation, Larry. I really appreciate you coming by
My pleasure.
and talking. I looked at my notes there. I had about 4 pages of notes. We got through a page and a half of them.
Okay.
So we got a lot more to
I
cover
told
next time.
you we could do
For
this
sure.
another time.
So I want to get into a quick question real quick that came in. This is a question and answer segment. This question and answer segment is brought to you by Baking by Grace. Check out bakingbygrace.com. Get some cookies, award-winning cookies, award-winning cakes from the Tennessee Valley Fair. Check out where she's at. Thursday nights, Hardin Valley at the farmers market. Tell them the Prosperity Lounge sent you. Okay, so real quick here. Leah from Knoxville wrote in and said, I've heard horror stories about closing delays. How do you make sure a deal actually closes on time?
I never missed closing date.
There you go.
And I can refer you to lenders that I don't think will ever miss closing date, but it is possible, and there are things sometimes out of my hand. I had one realtor that tried to tell me, well, you missed this closing date. And I said, we gave you a list of repairs, and those were for you all to do. Those are not me.
Okay.
Repairs do not fall under what is my responsibility.
Mortgage guy's not coming out with a tool belt, fixing everything.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Richard, so much for sharing your experience and wisdom with us tonight. You've given us a much clearer picture of what a smart housing decision looks like and how homeownership can be both a financial tool and a lifestyle choice. Before we wrap, let me highlight a few of the key takeaways from today's conversation. Flexibility beats rigidity. 30-year mortgage with the option to pay extra often gives families more breathing room than locking in that strict 15-year plan. Rent isn't neutral. It's someone else's mortgage. If you can apply responsibility, you can begin building equity and wealth for yourself instead of your landlord. The East Tennessee market is still growing. Areas of Hardin Valley, South Knox, Powell, even out in Loudoun County continue to expand, offering opportunities if you know what to look for. And housing is more than shelter, it's strategy. Treat your home as part of your long-term wealth plan, not just a monthly payment. And circling back to where I began, I was reminded again that Honor Air Welcome event. Check it out. We're going to do that video this week. It's going to be a great talk. It's a great way to invest in the community, honor legacy, and things like that. Your financial decisions, including your home, are part of your legacy you're building for your family and your future. For our listeners, if you want to connect with Richard, we'll have his contact info in the show notes. And don't forget, you can replay this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and more. And check out theprosperitylounge.com. That's www.theprosperitylounge.com. And as always, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@theprosperitylounge. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
This is where momentum meets the sun.
Oh, my
The
pleasure.
Prosperity Lounge, yeah, we don't just
I realize that like I just thank all for their serving because we all have to deal with something.
Yeah.